An engineer was using magnetic fluid to reinforce a pipeline when suddenly his arm was sucked into the metal wall next to him. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't free himself. The captain rushed over to help and tried to pull him out with brute force, but the wall seemed to have a life of its own, dragging the engineer's arm around wildly. Finally, with the help of a woman, they managed to rescue him, but strangely the engineer's arm had vanished. It turned out that the 7 astronauts had conducted a particle acceleration collision experiment on the International Space Station, aiming to create the God particle. This caused the space communication equipment to lose contact with Earth. However, before they could find a solution, the communicator suddenly discovered in horror Earth had disappeared. Everyone rushed to the window to check and finally believed that Earth had truly vanished from the solar system. The captain immediately convened an emergency meeting, and their top priority was to repair the gyroscope. However, when they checked the control room, they discovered that the gyroscope had mysteriously vanished. Upon returning, they noticed a living arm crawling on the ground. They quickly covered it with a glass dome, but the arm kept gesturing. An engineer recognized it as his own arm, so he handed it a pen. The arm wrote a series of words on the ground, meaning to cut open the Russian astronaut's abdomen. They then went to the Russian astronaut's body, and the astronaut volunteered to cut open his abdomen. To their surprise, they found the missing gyroscope inside. After installing the gyroscope, the space station's positioning system returned to normal, and they finally located Earth on the other side of the solar system. They immediately attempted to contact Earth. However, they received shocking news. Due to severe research shortages, a world war had been raging for 14 months. What puzzled them even more was that the collapsed space station had crashed several days earlier, with 1 astronaut mysteriously missing and the remaining 6 all perishing. They finally realized that, due to the failed particle collision, they had entered another parallel dimension. To return to their own Earth, they must repair the particle accelerator. But unexpectedly, an accident occurred. While the astronauts were repairing the cooling system, coolant flooded into the cabin, and the hatch was sealed shut. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't open the door. The external hatch was damaged, and the extreme cold caused the coolant to freeze, instantly turning the astronauts into ice sculptures. The woman hurriedly activated the particle accelerator with the surviving crew members. As a brilliant light began to flicker, the 2 parallel universes finally returned to normal, and they successfully returned to their own world. Immediately afterward, the 2 hurriedly boarded the escape pod to return to Earth. However, they did not know that the Earth they were returning to was no longer the same as before.